Hello, and welcome to another episode of Gossip Finance, where I am your host, Alacius Inger.
And I'm Duncan Sandlin. How's everybody today? How are you, Lacey?
I am excellent.
Excellent.
Again, I'm going to say my favorite thing to say. Oh my God, the news is just weird. Let's just jump right into all the craziness.
Right into the news. So, the Republicans still trying to find a speaker. We'll get into that a little bit more, but here's a clip from a guy, Luke Beasley, and he's doing a clip from CNN where he's going to talk about this because it is just a nightmare for them right now. So we'll watch Luke here.
CNN host Jake Tapper is rightfully fed up with Republicans over their inability to govern and made that very clear during an interview with a Republican congressman.
Skipping this.
Appeared on Jake Tapper's weekend show, The State of the Union, on CNN. This is, of course, taking place within the context of House Republicans brutally struggling to pick a speaker, a rather simple obligation they are failing to fulfill. And after watching this video we're about to watch, I'll break down, now that Jim Jordan is out, who is jumping in the race and the specifics on that. But first, this clip where Jake Tapper asks Mike Turner, quote, "I hope you don't take this personally, but do you guys have any idea how clownish you look?"
I really hope in the next several days as we come together as a Republican caucus that we're able to resolve that so that we go unified to the House floor and deliver a speaker.
I hope you don't take this personally, but do you guys have any idea how clownish you look?
Well, Jake, I'm very fond of saying that Congress is like high school, but even more so. So hopefully we'll get past this. And, I certainly have been part of the governing majority, and I'm going to stay part of that and look forward to those who are on the fringes hopefully coming together so that we can get a speaker.
I said that to Congressman Womack last week, high school, and he said that that's an insult to high school students. It's more like junior high. Congressman Turner, Chairman Turner, good to see you. I hope you guys pick a speaker sometime soon.
It doesn't sound like that's likely, though. So, and this guy, Mike Turner, in a whole different situation, yeah.
So I'm having a thought that's not really so direct on that clip, but I'm just thinking, Duncan, if I don't go to work and do my...
So sorry about that. So you were talking about if you don't go to work, something like that?
Oh, yeah. So I just wanted to, reflect on the fact that if I don't go to work,
mm-hmm.
it's a pretty limited amount of time I get to keep getting paid.
Right.
I mean, I might not be taken off payroll like that day, because the type of job I have, it takes a little longer. But I only get to not show up to work for so long before I stop getting paid.
Right. Well, these guys...
And I think most Americans can say that. So it's sort of interesting to me that these guys just get to, continue not really doing their job and not being able to actually, do any work, and they're still going to be able to make their paychecks.
Yeah, well, it's the Republicans that are all screwed on this, but what it was essentially it came down to they had 9 guys that were running to be the new nominated speaker, right? And it's just been a total clown car. It's been a total shit show. Like he said, they look like clowns. I think it's an insult to high school students. I think high school students are a little bit more organized. It could just be me. But anyway, so 9 guys. So finally what happened this morning, actually, today, was the GOP did nominate a guy to run for House Speaker because Jim Jordan got boosted out, right? So Kevin McCarthy got ousted back on the 3rd. Right, here we are over 3 weeks later. We still don't have a speaker. McCarthy was out. Then it was Steve Scalise that was running, and then he withdrew when he realized he couldn't get the votes. And then Jim Jordan ran, and then Jim Jordan went through 3 votes, and he got less votes each time. So by the 3rd one, everybody knew he was out, so they ousted him. Then 9 guys ran, and they finally picked a guy this morning. They picked Tom Emmer. So we'll watch a little clip on this, but it's breaking news from CBS.
Breaking news. House Majority Whip Tom Emmer has won the GOP nomination for Speaker. CBS News congressional correspondent Nicole Killian joins us now from Capitol Hill. Nicole, we spoke just minutes ago, and there were still two front runners. What's the latest? What happened?
Well, according to GOP Conference Chair Elise Stefanik, she just congratulated Republican Whip Tom Emmer as the Speaker designate. So that means he is now the official nominee for the House Republican Party in terms of Speaker. Now, what we are waiting to find out is whether or not they will try to coalesce behind him while they are in this meeting. You'll recall in other instances where we have had a Speaker designate, there have been some debates about making sure House Republicans are united behind that candidate before they go to the House floor.
So that's it. So Tom's now, he won by a simple majority, right? But he's got to get, 216 votes or 17 votes to actually win. Now, he was short like 26 or 27 votes. So it was kind of a lot of people to convince, right? He's got to convince 26 or 27 people, right? Pretty much. So, how's he going to do that? He's kind of a guy where he was one of the guys that actually certified Biden's election. So he's one of the few Republicans who did that. Not few, but I mean, of the guys running. So he's got to get the Trump wing on his board. So he called Trump, asked Trump to back him. Trump made some comments about it, and then Emmer just got it this morning. And then basically Trump went on Truth Social and said, "I have many wonderful friends wanting to be Speaker of the House, and some are truly great warriors. Rhino Tom Emmer, who I do not know well, is not one of them. I believe he has now learned his lesson because he's saying that he is pro-Trump all the way, but who can ever be sure? He has only changed because that's what it takes to win. The Republican Party cannot take that chance because he's not where the America First voters are. Voting for globalist rhinos like Tom Emmer would be a tragic mistake." So Trump just freaking sank his ship before they even got to the Florida vote. So it's over for Tom Emmer. There's no way he's getting it. Not after Trump lambasted him.
Oh my God.
So we're back to square one again.
So I was sort of laughing at the, what was the phrase they used, that the Republicans would have to unite before it went to a vote. I was like, oh, that's rich. They can't seem to unite over much.
Anything. Well, that's the problem. You're a party that runs on government's bad, right? So any job you get in government should be bad, you'd think. So these guys are already. It's just a fucked up situation. But if you run on government's bad, then how can you expect those people to actually govern?
Great question.
It's the old bit from Family Guy when. The dog Brian decides to run for mayor, and he's asking Stewie, and he's like, "Well, who wants to get an old politician who's been a politician for years? What are they going to do?" And Stewie's like, "Govern." That's what we're electing them to do. Oh man. To move on, because it's just a shit show. But to move on real quick, we'll move on to. I wanted to get into this. It's a brief story. We're going to do David Pakman's got it, but George Santos, remember him, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So George Santos is in, he's got what is it, 30-something indictments right now he's facing, and then he's got some for fraud and identity theft and stuff like that from his donors. But now he's in even deeper trouble too. So he's looking at prison time, and then this happened. And this is David Pakman reporting on this.
Things are really not going well for lying Republican indicted Congressman George Santos. George Santos is reportedly down to his last $23,000 and is now refunding donors. Politico reports George Santos is refunding more money than he is raising. That's based on the last quarter, calling into question his ability to run for re-election next year. We've been saying, could this guy possibly win re-election, or is he going to be defeated? There's a question as to whether he even can run, because his fundraising last quarter was negative. His campaign also disclosed debt from last year that was not properly reported at the time. Santos' campaign refunded more than $35,000 to donors between July and September, while taking in only $1,700 in new donations, according to his latest report. They also spent more than $42,000 over the period, $20,000 of which was legal expenses. This leaves him with just $23,000 in his campaign account. The filing.
So he can't necessarily even run next term. Not that he'd win, because he's been caught in, I mean, this is the guy that said he went to this college and was a star volleyball player, and he never attended the college. This is the guy that stole money from the homeless vet whose dog had cancer. I mean, this guy's a total scumbag. He's wanted in, like, I forget what, Colombia or something like that for theft. We don't even, oh, you're muted, Lacey. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I said we should send him there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was for a while they were wondering if George Santos was even his real name, because he's used so many different identities. I mean, it's just, there's not much more to that story. I just think it's funny. I mean, he's got 23,000 left to run. He's gonna get smoked. He's gonna get smoked. And the only reason he's in there is because A, the Republicans didn't bother to check on him, and B, the big thing that shocked me is the Democrats, whoever his opponent was, really dropped the ball, because the guy lied about everything while he was running. And they weren't like really elaborate, confusing lies. They were like things you could easily check. Right?
Yeah, that's crazy to me.
You can call a university and say, hey, did they attend your university, graduate? And the university will tell you. They won't give you their transcripts or anything, but they'll tell you if they went there.
Right.
It just amazes me. But yeah, so Santos is out of it, but he's still going to be voting for speaker either later today or tomorrow. So we'll see how that goes.
It just keeps getting weirder, man. Just when you think like it's kind of like reached some sort of limit, you find out it really has not.
Oh no, they're digging to China. You think they've hit the bottom of the barrel, and it's like they're not even close. Not even close. And with that in mind, Trump's lawyer in the DC case, one of his 4 indictments, and I want to take a moment to think about that for a second. The fact that I have to refer to the former president as the president with the 4 indictments, and you don't even know which one I'm talking about. In this case, I'm talking about the DC one, the January 6th inciting insurrection one. Well, his lawyer applied for an appeal on that case, but there was something wrong with the motion to appeal. That's a 3, 2, 1. So this is Ben Meisalas, and he's from the Midas Touch, and he's gonna go over what happened
from the Midas Touch Network. So we know that Donald Trump filed a notice of appeal regarding the gag order imposed on him by federal judge Tanya Chutkan in the Washington, D.C. federal case. One problem, though, Donald Trump's lawyer, John Lauro, who filed the notice of appeal, is not a licensed lawyer to practice law before the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeal, where they filed a notice of appeal. That's right. It's now been uncovered that John Lauro, Donald Trump's lawyer, is not a member of the bar who's permitted to practice before the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. He has to submit an application. He is a licensed lawyer in other jurisdictions, but you have to be licensed as well to practice before the various courts of appeals throughout the United States.
So that is.
So, Duncan, can I ask you a quick question?
Yes, you can.
Do you know which states you're allowed to practice
Financing.
your financial practice in? Do you know?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I'm in 3 states.
Oh.
And you know what? I actually happen to know which states I'm licensed to teach in. There are 2 of them,
Right.
and I know which ones they are even. And I actually happen to know that I'm not licensed to teach in the other ones.
That's true. Yeah. So you can't do that in the other states. Yeah. Yeah. It's the same with attorneys. You have to pass the bar in each separate state or apply to get that waived. Usually they don't waive it. You have to take the bar. Right.
It's just crazy to me that you would like somehow not manage to know where you're licensed to practice.
You didn't know you weren't licensed to practice in DC? Yeah, no, it's just so stupid. His lawyers are just
I could almost see the reverse, like with certain types of license being like, I didn't realize I could practice in XYZ place because my license is held in some other place. But I've never heard of somebody thinking they're licensed to practice somewhere that they're not.
No, I know.
Like, that's not a direction that I think that goes normally. It's super weird to me.
Right. Well, it's like trying to use Monopoly dollars at Caesar's Palace. It's just the judge is just going to look at it and go, "You're not even licensed in this state."
Right.
Oh man, it just kills me. It just kills me. They're so. It's like they think nobody's going to check or something. I don't know what they think. But it gets worse for Trump going forward, and the case in Georgia really heated up starting Friday. And we're going to start with this clip from Ari Melbourne because people are starting to flip on Trump, and it's not looking good for him right now. It is looking really bad. We'll talk about that in a minute here.
Cases. Jack Smith has already put pressure on defendant Trump after winning that partial gag order. Now, if you've been following the news at all here in America, you probably know that D.A. Willis has just won convictions on the eve of her first RICO trial. Indeed, that trial was supposed to start today, but she won it so decisively, there is no trial. I'll explain. 2 Trump lawyers pled guilty 2 days in a row to end just last week. Defendant Trump is showing new concern today that he is worried they will testify against him and it will be damaging. He's posted a new statement, which asserts, referring to Sidney Powell, that she was, quote, one of millions who thought the 2020 presidential election was rigged and stolen. That's his typo, by the way. He goes on to say, quote, Ms. Powell was not my attorney and never was. That claim is false, but it is also telling. And I'll show you exactly why. But here was then lead Trump attorney.
So here's the deal. So the first to flip on him was Sidney Powell, the woman in the middle here, right? Do you guys remember she's got that real deep Southern? She talks like this, really slow all the time. Yeah, she sounds like the woman telling an orphan, "You ain't never getting adopted." Right? She just sounds evil to me, like the villain from Little Orphan Annie. Anyways,
Right.
Yeah, I know. She's just anyway. So she flipped first. She got a great deal. I think it was 5 or 6 years probation. They didn't charge her with any felonies. They knocked them all down to misdemeanors. Right? It's 5-year probation plus the misdemeanors. I think like a $5,000 fine, which is nothing. And she has to testify in all future cases. Right? Now, I mean, if you get a DUI, it's a worse sentence.
Right.
Yeah. So she was looking at several years of prison. And she got it pled down to no jail time, 5 years probation, fine, and you have to testify. And I think she has to write a letter of apology to the state of Georgia, something like that. But anyway, so I think she should have to go door to door like a sex offender and say, "Yeah, I tried to steal your vote." All right. But anyway, what kills me about this is so she got away with quite a bit, looking at prison time, got it down. She now still has a chance to potentially keep her bar license, which is kind of amazing.
Oh, wow.
I
Right.
don't know that she will, and I don't know who would hire her after this, but she could potentially get it back and get all that stuff expunged. So that was the first thing. So then Cheesebro or Chesbro, he's Cheesebro. His name's Cheesebro.
She's broke.
His name's Chesbro. He's from Wisconsin. His name is Cheesebro. I don't care how he pronounces it. If you're from Wisconsin, you have that name, it's Cheesebro. Anyway, so he comes in, he pleads, he gets one felony, but he gets the similar deal where he gets 5 years probation, a $5,000 fine, and he has to testify. Right? So we're gonna watch these real quick, but I want to clarify this because this is important. So when DAs get these sort of deals that they hand out like this, because these are small fish as far as Bonnie Willis is concerned. She doesn't want them. She wants Trump. She wants Rudy Giuliani. She wants the bigger fish, right? So there's 19.
Of course.
So there are 19 people that she indicted. It's not unthinkable that by the end, 18 of them will plead out, and it'll just be Trump all by himself, with 18 people having to testify against him, right? But when you do these deals, they do what's called a proffer agreement. And the way a proffer agreement works is this, is Sidney Powell and Cheesebro had to come in, and they probably did it on film. They usually do it, they tape it or they put it on film. Had to testify and answer questions to all the stuff they know, right? And once that was done, and they have it and it's recorded and it's evidence now, it can be submitted as evidence, this testimony, the deposition, and the proffer agreement. Once they testified to all that, if the DA found that she thought they weren't lying and they were given everything they had, then the DA would sign the deal. But you don't get the deal until after you give everything up. So the other catch to that is this, is let's say they go to testify in Georgia, but they also, if Jack Smith calls them to testify in D.C., they have to go to D.C. and testify. If they get called to testify in Florida, they have to testify. And if they get caught withholding or lying about any information, they violate the probation, they violate the deal, and they instantly go back to Georgia and get sentenced and go to jail or go to prison because they're in violation of the probation.
Their hands got tied.
Yep. Well, that's if you're going to cut them a deal like that, because her and Cheesebro are both looking at hard time, years in prison. They got off with a slap on the wrist, a $5,000 fine and probation.
Oh my goodness! I mean, they did get off with a slap on the wrist, but like, I guess my thoughts are, I'm just like, I hope they plan on walking the straight and narrow because
they're gonna have to, or they're gonna get hammered hard. So let's watch. So this was Sidney Powell flipping on Trump. This is when she pled guilty.
Well, this afternoon, former President Donald Trump is trying to distance himself from one of his former lawyers, Sidney Powell. Just last week, you might remember, she pleaded guilty in the case alleging a criminal conspiracy to try to overturn the 2020 election here in Georgia. Well, the former president posted on his social media, Truth Social, on Sunday saying Powell was not his attorney and never was. Mr. Trump said Powell, along with millions of other people, thought the 2020 presidential election was rigged and stolen. However, it's documented that Powell did serve as his attorney. Mr. Trump listed her as an addition to his legal team in 2020, saying she will work on the legal effort to defend elections. Of course, this is all coming just days after attorney Kenneth Chesbro and Powell pleaded guilty to reduce charges in exchange for their testimony.
So, sorry, I misquoted that. So that wasn't her actually pleading. That was the, after the fact, Trump tried to deny that she was his lawyer. Even though there's record of it, and he even said it.
It's like being like, I wasn't married to that woman.
Right.
No, I wasn't married to that woman. You're like, but there's like paperwork filed with the court.
Right.
Like you were clearly married to that woman. No, I wasn't.
Yeah.
No.
There's a marriage certificate.
No, I wasn't married to her. But like, this is your signature on the marriage certificate. Right. You clearly married her. Nope. Like, who do you think you're fooling, buddy? I mean,
Oh, I know.
The evidence is there.
It's the old joke from Chicago where the woman comes home and finds her sleazy boyfriend in bed with two other women, right? And she wakes him up at gunpoint and she's yelling at him and he's like, "What are you talking about, babe? I've just been here by myself the whole time." She's like, "What are you talking about? You're by yourself. You're with two other women right now." He's like, "What are you gonna believe? Your eyes or what I tell you?"
Well,
probably my eyes. So that was bad. So, I mean, he's screwed on that. No, this is Chesbro's deal. This is Alex Wagner talking about it on Friday.
Now is former DeKalb County DA Gwen Keys. Gwen, it's great to see you tonight. Fortune has you in New York.
So they're going to talk a little bit about this and proffer and all that stuff, but they're going to talk about Chesbro flipping on.
So we can dig into this explosive development, which seems meaningfully more perilous for Donald Trump than even maybe Sidney Powell or other flipped co-defendants, because he's implicated in the same plot that Chesbro is.
He is, and if you look at the indictment, the former president, Mr. Giuliani, Mr. Eastman are all listed in this count. This is count 15 of the original indictment. You notice with Ms. Powell, they created a separate accusation to present misdemeanors. This is a felony. It's in the original document, and it has several people named in the count as co-conspirators.
And the fact that, when you hear, when I heard Chesbro was pleading out, it was, my thoughts immediately turned to Giuliani, Eastman, and Trump, which is maybe why outside the court today, Chesbro's lawyer said he didn't snitch against anyone. He went in there, he accepted responsibility, almost telegraphing to potential other co-defendants, I didn't snitch. And yet he's going to be asked to snitch, isn't he?
Well, one of the conditions of his plea is that he made a proffer to the district attorney, and he has to testify against the other co-defendants. So we'll see what that testimony is. But certainly we've seen DA Willis. She's very smart. She's very strategic. I cannot imagine she has allowed him not to provide incriminating evidence against other defendants.
If you're Rudy Giuliani's lawyer right now, Rudy Giuliani, who has a hard time keeping lawyers, who is in financially dire straits, what would your advice to, is it a foregone conclusion that he's going to be under immense pressure to plead out himself?
I think you're going to start to see other defendants start to fall. Remember the progression here. Both Ms. Powell and Mr. Chesbro, they had motions in front of the court. Those motions did not go their way. And then you see within 5 or so days that they've made the decision that they don't want to risk going to trial and possibly have a felony conviction with jail time. I think you're going to see that with Mr. Giuliani and several of the other defendants as well.
So that's, she points out a good point here of what's going on. So there were a few people that were involved in that were like tight involved with this. It was Eastman and Giuliani, who were kind of at the top, right? And then Mark Meadows, right? And then Powell and Chesbro were two of the lawyers that were a part of all that, who were the smaller players, but they were a part of it with those three. And Jenna Ellis, who was the other attorney that was involved with that. So what she's pointing out is Fonnie Willis wants to get these lower ones off on really good deals, because especially now with Giuliani's broke. He can't afford to get huge fines or go to prison or anything like that. He'd probably die in prison at this point with the kind of charges he's looking at. So now it makes it more attractive. So the game now is, let's make a deal. So we've got pretty much the big fish riled up here all together. We got the smaller players in place. So now the dominoes are starting to fall. And now it's who can be the first to get a deal. Because once she has enough that she feels she can get a conviction, why is she going to offer you a good deal? She's going to say, bummer, take your chances at court. You waited too long. So now everybody's running to see who can rat first. And part of that was to go after Giuliani. But remember, it was her, it was Powell, Eastman, Chesbro, and Jenna Ellis were the four big ones, right? Well, guess who flipped this morning? Jenna Ellis.
Oh.
So
all right. This morning in Georgia, another one of Donald Trump's co-defendants in the election interference case taking a plea deal. This is former Trump lawyer Jenna Ellis in court this hour.
Is it your decision to waive these rights and enter a guilty plea because you are in fact guilty?
It is. So she is the fourth co-defendant and the third in just a week to take a plea deal.
Hold up, pause. Why is she smiling in her mugshot? It's not smiling now. She cried in court today when she pled. She was crying through the whole hearing.
Joining us is NBC News senior legal correspondent Laura Jarrett, and also with us by phone is MSNBC.
Oh, we'll cut that out. But the thing about that is she was crying. She gave her little apology speech to the judge, which was actually fairly nice. And then she basically hugged her lawyer. You know why? Because she got 5 years probation, $5,000 fine, has to testify, could potentially still keep her bar license.
You know, I'm not surprised that she cried. You
I
know,
cried
people make
too.
fun of people for crying or whatever, but like, what could have happened is so extreme that it would completely change your whole world. And as it stands, if she really gets off like as lightly as this appears she could, there are things that are not great that are happening, but like nothing that's as detrimental as what could have been, you know?
Well,
I
right.
would have cried my brains out.
Right. Well, I mean, the thing about it is she's always going to have this stain on her, like the rest of them. They're always going to have this stain. You guys lied and tried to overthrow the election, and you knew it. You can't say you didn't know what you were doing. You tried to overthrow the country. And the bottom line is the fact that you're not the one that the DA really wants, right? Just means, well, in this case, the DA doesn't really want you. So instead of you doing 5 or 10 years in Fulton prison, right? Instead, you get 5 years probation.
Right, there's one option.
Right.
Option one, you know.
Yeah. Do you want to spend hard time in prison, or do you want to do 5 years probation? I guarantee you right now, nobody wants to go to prison. Not nobody, but yeah. So once again, that's the game now. Who can get a deal fast enough before the Georgia DA is not doing it? But even then, you got to remember, just because they got a deal from Fani Willis doesn't mean they'll necessarily get a deal on the DC case that these people are all involved in too. So they might get indicted or continue or have to go to trial in those cases. In which case they should probably just plead out and get whatever deal they can get. But everything that Fani Willis has, all the proffer agreements, all the information, all the testimony she has from them in order to cut these deals, you know who else has them? The prosecutor in the DC case, Jack Smith. Because she's going to share all that evidence with him. Why wouldn't she? So Trump is really, and that case starts in March. Trump might not go to trial in Georgia till the end of next year, but the case in DC starts in March, and now Jack Smith has even more arrows in his quiver because Fani Willis basically nailed this thing shut for him. Not that he didn't probably already have it nailed shut, but still, now it's really nailed shut. But we'll move on to another sort of side topic that's sort of semi-related: Trump's kids. Oh yeah, they've hopped on the crazy train.
You know, let's just say, can you imagine the amount of therapy you would need to like undo the damage of being that man's child?
Well, it's not the therapy. Maybe for the younger two, Tiffany and Barron, but the older three, they are so far in it. And we'll get into this maybe too, because we'll do a Dave Ramsey clip later. But imagine if he were going to prison and his fortune was gone. His kids, what would they do? All they've ever done is work for him. All these kids have ever done is work for Donald Trump. Tiffany was the smart one. I'm going to go get my law degree and go do something else. That was the smart one out of the kids. But yeah, that's...
Well, she's also the one, not that I'm well versed in the, Trump kids, but she's also the one that seems to have the least to do with him just in general, that it doesn't look like there's much relationship there.
No.
Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe they friggin' text each other every day or something, but that's not what it looks like to me.
I don't think so. Anyway, but the Trump kids have gone nuts because it looks like in the New York case, he's going to lose his ability to do business. They're going to lose their ability to do this kind of business anymore. So he's going to be broke. They're going to be kind of sucking whatever is left over, right? On top of that fact, there's criminal charges that apply to him and sort of apply to some of them. And they've got other issues going on, but they have gone off the rails. And just to show you, here's David Pakman again, but here is a clip from Donald Jr. Donald Trump Jr. going absolutely nuts.
Donald Trump Jr. also seemingly very unwell, struggling to speak even more than Donald Trump. Don Jr. has what I guess they call a free speech show or a free speech platform. I have to tell you, I find the concept so stupid in the sense that the idea of free speech for the sake of speech, to me, is not super exciting. I don't want to deny anyone's speech. That has never been my position. I'm close to a free speech absolutist in the sense that if it's not illegal, let the marketplace decide whether speech is up or down voted, metaphorically and proverbially. But there's this thing on the right about, we are creating a free speech platform. I'm regaining my free speech, even though they rarely have ever actually lost their free speech. And then they see it as a virtue for its own sake, just to say stupid things. And the prototypical example of that is Don Jr.'s show Triggered, which is one of the dumbest uses of the so-called free speech that he's regained that I can imagine. We don't know whether he uses uppers, but he seems hopped up out of his gourd here. He rants about the price of hair curdlers and also hone ownership. Yes, I know that it sounds like a strange thing to say. Let's listen to this.
All right, inflation is basically stagnant. Yeah. The price of a hair curler, maybe has come down a little bit, or at least the inflation on it has come down a bit. But
he seems so hopped up. A hair curdler. I've seen hair curdle like spoiled milk, and it is an ugly situation, that I can assure you. His speech continuing to deteriorate as the show continues.
The high interest rates combating the inflation has made home ownership.
Home ownership? Has anyone ever owned their own home? That's...
Anyway, he's just, it's gone. He's...
What on God's green earth is that?
I'm going to tell you this. So, when I was a cop, I remember I was buying Coke from this guy, right? I was undercover buying Coke. I had to spend 30 minutes in a public bathroom with this guy just to do a Coke deal. Because he was talking just wouldn't stop talking. And just all kinds of random shit. And I'm like, and part of it's like, you're sitting there thinking, man, and the only reason people do this is to get the Coke? Should be a freaking red flag that maybe the Coke's not that important. If I gotta sit here for 30 minutes and listen to this shit. But he's got a show where he does it. It's hilarious. And the thing that really I love the most is hair curlers is what he's talking about. Not curdlers, but he's on something. But hair curdler. Anyway, when's the last time you saw anybody really with a hair curler? Are they real popular anymore? Or?
Well, I was getting myself a little stuck on this hair curler thing too, regardless of how he said it. And it made me feel like, is he talking about curling irons? Like not literal old school curlers that you had a bunch on your head? Is he talking about the curling iron?
Yeah, a lot of people have those. But the old hair curlers...
I feel like it has to be a curling iron he's talking about, because the old school hair curler thing doesn't make sense. Not that this makes a lot of sense anyway, mind you, but it makes even less sense that way. I don't know.
So unless you're a hairstylist, I don't know.
Well, and then And then once I got past, I decided it was curling irons. Are we buying so many curling irons that we're like freaking out about the prices of them? Okay. All right, viewers, you might make fun of me in the comments, which is fine. Duncan reads that crap. I know. He just tells me something good happens. But we all can see I don't spend a lot of time curling my hair. But I think, like, even when I was doing that, I bought a curling iron, like, twice a freaking decade or something? Like,
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't stressed at the price of curling irons. It's not like, that's not a weekly, supermarket buy or something. Like,
No, it's
people are stressing about the price of bread or why cereal's not cheap anymore, or gas in the tank or something, but not really hair curlers.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it's one of those simple appliances, like a toaster. It's not like you're buying a new toaster every month. I mean, so yeah. Anyway, he's trying to talk about inflation and he's going crazy about it. But yeah, so his kids are freaking out too. And then here's Eric Trump, the slower one. And he has kind of a weird interview with Kerry Lake, who lost in Arizona, who's a total nut job, right? But here's Luke Beasley. He's going to introduce this real quick. But this was an odd one, so we'll watch this one real quick.
For you, one of the most bizarre interviews I've looked at in a very, very long time, and some clips to show you from it. Kerry Lake is now running for Senate in Arizona. Lord help us. And she sat down for an interview with Eric Trump, either right before her announcement for her Senate run or after, sometime in that time frame. And you put Kerry Lake and Eric Trump in the same room, yikes. Yikes is going to happen, I can tell you. And indeed, yikes happened in this interview. So we're going to get to, just as a preview, we're going to get to seemingly Eric Trump accusing or alluding to his dad engaging in unlawful child labor practices. I'll show you. You don't believe me, but I'll show you. And also the most outrageous claim made by one of them about the amazingness of Donald Trump, which is so absurd, and some other things as well. But first, I want to show you Kerry Lake, who, by the way, is running for Senate. She still pretends she won the gubernatorial race back in 2022. Completely ridiculous. And you'll hear some of that talk in what I'm about to show you. This is the intro as presented on Kerry Lake's platform of what was to come in this interview.
I've had many people tell me, don't fight the elections, that's taboo. It's not taboo to go talk to your children about changing gender, but it's taboo to question your government when there's problems, when there's corruption. Do you think that there's something changing a little bit there?
I've said this to you before. I've said this to you 100 times. You've been part of such a movement as a one-band army of something that so many people have run from. Voter fraud's real. You'll never have me believe that there wasn't serious fraud in the election. I would parallel Joe Biden around the country. He'd be in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. I'd be across the block somewhere, Wilkes-Barre. He would have 20 people. I'd have 1,000. If it looks like a duck and acts like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's probably a damn duck, right? And we were seeing that all over the country. And then you were seeing in Pennsylvania,
That's so stupid.
Oh my god! But at least he doesn't sound all gacked out like his brother. I mean, that's like
but
kind of a little consolation. But
the thing about it is that I mean, I bet you if you jiggle your keys in front of him, it would distract him. He'd get all excited. Play peekaboo with Eric Trump. He's so stupid. I'm sorry.
Peekaboo.
Joe Biden couldn't have won because he didn't draw in the same crowds at his rallies that he didn't really hold. Why? Because it was freaking COVID. And besides, you had Trump saying enough crazy shit, and Trump screwed up COVID bad enough, and 1 million people had died. At that point, it was like 400,000 or 500,000 people had died. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Biden really needed to get out there because nobody wasn't. It's not like we were all rushing to vote for Biden. We were all rushing to vote against Trump. I mean, honestly, it could have been just about any Democrat at that point.
Right.
You could have picked Nancy Pelosi, and I'd have held my nose and voted for her. Wouldn't have been happy about it, but I'd have done it. I mean, I voted for Hillary. I mean, and Hillary wasn't my first choice either.
Well, frequently by the time you get to who the actual nominees are in your party, your first choice is not the person.
No,
I mean, most of
rarely.
the time, my first choice is not the person, unless there just really wasn't very many people in the primaries. But it doesn't feel like very often it's my first choice there.
It's different because we're on the left. So on the left, we don't really deify our leaders.
No.
We treat them like what they are. They're civil servants. They get the respect for being a civil servant, but that's about all you get. You're not a king. You're not a god. But with conservatives, it's like Trump is like the second coming of Jesus. It's weird. They were like that about McCain too, and Sarah Palin. And it's just weird stuff. Weird stuff. Weird, wacky stuff. Wild stuff. Anyway, but God, it's just... Yeah, Eric, it's not going the way you think it's going, this interview. Besides, Carrie Lake, here's a woman who still denies that she lost the governor election in Arizona. Still denies it. Still thinks she won. Amazing to me. But, yeah, so they're doing the interview. Let's see. We'll watch one more clip here real quick. Give me one sec. So this is Luke again with one more clip with them.
Dad, what the hell's drinking? Like, you talk about like apple juice, right? What are drugs? I had no idea, but every single day, drinking the drugs and smoking. And he was strict. He was strict in his own way. He had high expectations of us. He also made us work very, very hard. I was on construction sites when I was 11, 12 years old, doing breaking down walls, concrete, sheetrock, plumbing, and then stuff I literally still do for myself, these days.
So you know how a building, how a skyscraper is built. You know how
you're making minimum wage and.
Oh, well, that's telling. Wait.
And he put us on those sites because he cared about work ethic. There was no free time. There was no nonsense.
So,
okay, so your dad paid you minimum wage and had you working for him as child labor? And none of that struck you as odd? Now that you're an adult? Furthermore, I'm telling you right now, look at his hands. That is not a guy who's swinging a hammer to knock down walls for 6 hours. No freaking way.
He did say he was like 11.
Well, he's saying he still does that stuff for himself today. I'm sure he still fixes his own plumbing.
So maybe he did it one time in his adult life, and now that's like he can be like, well, I'm going to do this, and now I can say that,
Yeah, that's probably all it is. But yeah, no, it's just wild. But they're trying to, I don't know what they're trying to do. They're trying to help out Dad or what? Well, there is one Trump kid who's not trying to help out Daddy, and that is Ivanka. Uh-oh, what's Ivanka doing?
Oh.
Well, there really is no equivalency. All of my emails that relate to any form of government work, which was mainly scheduling and logistics and managing the fact that I have a home life and a work life, are all part of the public record.
But your father hammered Hillary Clinton on this, said that it was criminal, she should be locked up.
I think she's pathetic. I think she should be in jail for what she did with her emails, okay?
So the idea of lock her up doesn't apply to you?
No.
That was evil.
So I want to point this out because he starts this out with a clip from that's 2018. So they got the whole Hillary being stupid with her emails. Big investigation. It pretty much cost her the election because the FBI came out with that. And that was that guy. What was his name? Comer, the big tall guy that was in the director of the FBI, which was a dick move. He did that, and screwed up the election. But anyway, so Hillary turns out nothing criminal. It was mostly just that she was careless, and she wasn't the only one. There were other people that did it. Then we find out that Ivanka was doing the same shit. Right? During the campaign. And then when she was working at the White House and the woman's asking her, well, you're doing the same thing. Do you think Hillary should be in jail? Well, yeah, I know my father said that, but that doesn't apply to you? No, it doesn't apply to me. It applies to everybody else. It doesn't apply to me. But it gives you a good sense of sort of where Ivanka's head's at about this. If she can get away with it, she's going to get away with it. Well, that's what she's trying to do right now. And let's have Ben come back in and tell us a little bit about that. She's trying to bail on the rest of the family.
Subpoena that Ivanka Trump just filed, trying to avoid testifying at the trial in either week 4 or 5, when her testimony is expected. It may even go to week 6. Before doing that, though, I just want to show you these things just to remind you we should never forget the level of corruption that existed during the Trump administration. Here is Jared and Ivanka headline. They made $640 million while they were given positions at the White House. Jared Kushner was not even qualified to obtain a security clearance, yet he held major positions, received classified information, and the Saudi Crown Prince MBS during the Trump administration boasted that Jared Kushner was in his pocket. The Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman told Confidence that Kushner discussed the names of royal family members opposed to his power grab and gave.
So we're going to get into that in a sec, but it's like, yeah, they took a ton of money. The Saudi Crown Prince also gave him, what was it, $6 billion to invest. And Ivanka, what she did recently was she's supposed to testify in the New York trial. She sent in a letter saying, basically a motion to quash the subpoena against her so she wouldn't have to testify. And she's basically saying, well, look, I wasn't really involved in that. That's all my father and Eric and Don Jr. So I shouldn't have to testify or implicate myself with them in any way, shape, or form. She's literally trying to throw them all under the bus and get out of this. Because her and Jared walked away with a ton of money. They're fine now.
That's insane.
So her father becomes president. She begs him for the job at the White House. He gives her and Jared jobs at the White House. They use it corruptly. They take as much money as they can. And then when her father gets in trouble and he gets indicted, 4 indictments now, right? What does she do? I don't know him. She does the same shit he does to everybody else. I don't know him. I wasn't involved with that.
Oh my God. So I guess what I wonder is, will he just gladly take her back and they'll,
I don't think she wants anything to do with him. I think her and Jared have pretty much cut that because they lost all their friends. Nobody wants to associate with them other than the MAGA scumbags who they can't stand. So,
well, I don't know. I'm not so sure. I would like to think that they'd cut ties, but the truth of the matter is, if there's another big position to be held where a bunch more money can come their way and whatever, I'm not convinced that they
Trump wins
even have their own sort of screwed up ethics enough to be like, no, I don't want to do that because I've decided I don't really like the way you are. I think it'll be like,
yeah. Well, no. If Trump wins re-election, she'll come crawling back. Her and Jared.
For sure.
But if he doesn't and he goes to prison, they're going to pretend they never met him.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Fair weather for sure.
Oh, the kids like that grow up with rich parents like that are totally under control. Their parents, they're all like that. They'll suck up to mommy and daddy when they're getting stuff. But when they're not getting anything, they bail.
Sounds about right.
You've met some of my ex-girlfriends. You know how that goes.
Yeah, you've got great taste in women, Duncan. Great taste in women.
Fantastic taste in women. Well, so anyways, the Trump is screwed. I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked if he's in prison by this time next year. Or at least getting sentenced. I don't know how he doesn't get prison time at this point. So he'd probably die in prison.
I mean, I freaking hope that's true. I mean, the evidence appears to be like completely stacked up against him, and I know the Republicans like to think that certain individuals are better than the law or whatever, but it's not what I think necessarily. So,
yeah. Well, anyway, let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back. All right, so we're back from break, and we'll clip this and stuff, but we have breaking news on the speaker race. Are you ready? Here's Neil.
Breaking news. I need one of those little things to go across the screen.
Okay, well, we're going to watch Fox News with Neil Cavuto. Breaking news. It says breaking news.
Breaking. Okay.
There we go. Oh, whoops. Let's get some sound.
Majority whip right now.
Right.
Breaking news concerning Tom Emmer, the majority whip right now. The third choice to be speaker, at least of Republicans, but he's out as well, taking himself out of the running. Chat program has more on that. What happened, Chat?
What happened?
Well, Republicans just met in their conference meeting here. They took a 2-hour break, but Tom Emmer, the Republican from Minnesota, the majority whip, he did not leave the room. He heard from members who were against him. He got 117 members of the House Republican Conference voting for him earlier today. That's a far cry from needing 217 to win on the floor. He was able to get that number somewhere into the low 200s. But finally, he felt that he just could not bridge that gap. Remember that Steve Scalise, the majority leader, he dropped out after 30 hours here. Tom Emmer apparently has dropped out after about 3.5 hours.
Because after Trump's thing, he knew he couldn't win. So he just said, fuck it, I'm out.
Uncle.
Okay,
Uncle.
That's 3 guys they've nominated. 3 guys. 2 have dropped out. 1 lost 3 votes in a row.
We've talked about this before, Duncan, and it sounds pretty freaking absurd to me, but I gotta loop back to it. Wouldn't it be freaking wild if a Democrat ended up doing the job?
It could happen, because right now, the only person who's been close, is been Hakeem Jeffries, who's the Democratic House, who's the minority leader. And he's gotten 212 votes each time they've got brought up for a vote. He got all the Democrats. So he'd need to get 5 Republicans to flip. I don't think they're going to do that. I don't know why they'd give up their power like that, but you never know. And it could come to a deal here because November 17th, which is coming up in like 3 weeks, that's when the debt ceiling comes back up again. And if they don't reach a deal, airlines don't run, people don't get their Social Security checks or their food stamps or their benefits, and now all of a sudden you got people rioting in the streets.
All right, Duncan, let's stop and pull the string for just a second because this is super interesting.
Yeah.
Now, you're not only a finance guy, but a little known fact, you were a poli-sci major in undergrad.
Yeah, that's true.
So let's pull that string. So when the debt ceiling comes back up, what happens if there's no speaker?
They can't do anything. You can't pass any bills or do anything. They can't come to a resolution or anything. Right now,
so no resolution there can happen. Therefore, what?
Nothing happens. The government shuts down. There's no more money.
And so that means a whole lot of paychecks don't happen.
Yep. For government workers, that means things like planes, because was it the Federal Air, whatever it is, I forget what they're called. Yeah, they stop running, so no more flights. So that means if you're traveling for Thanksgiving, you can give that shit up, because that's not happening. I mean, we're talking about a horrible time to do it right before a holiday too. When millions and millions of people are going to be getting on planes or trains and stuff, and then that all shuts down. Yeah, basically everything shuts down. People don't, like you said, people don't get their Social Security checks. Government workers don't get paid.
So really, they need to get their shit together.
Like,
pardon my French.
3 weeks ago.
They need to get their shit together and have the speaker in place before the government shutdown situation actually happens.
Right. Well,
and then nobody can fly for the holidays. People aren't getting paychecks. They're not getting their Social Security checks. I mean, I can't even think about all the stuff that stops you running.
Well, the thing about it is in the past, the Republicans have always done this when there's a Democratic president. And the thought is, well, most voters are stupid and they don't realize that we're doing it. They'll just blame the president because the government stopped working, not realizing it's because of us, not because of the president. Well, now I think the word has gotten out because they've done it so many times, and Hakeem Jeffries, I think, has done a good job of pointing this out. But I also think that a lot of younger voters now are a lot more savvy because they have YouTube and stuff. They watch videos like this. They know that, no, it's the Republicans' fault. Plus, with all the speaker stuff being on the news now all the time, they know it's the Republicans' fault. So if they do this shit again, everybody's going to know, nope, it's the Republicans. And it's going to kill them. And they're going to do this before a presidential election next year. You could be running ads. Hey, remember when you didn't get your Social Security check? My opponent was one of the guys who made sure that didn't happen. I will never let you not get your Social Security. Right.
But it's such a shit show right before a really big election situation.
Well, and the other one is...
You'd think they'd be doing everything in their power not to have that be what's happening, you know?
Well, the other one is so many of them are running on this really draconian pro-life ticket, and abortion is incredibly popular in the U.S. I'm not saying that people want to get abortions. I'm saying that should it be a right, is you get 60-70% every time.
Yeah, it's a very popular opinion because, you know, we got a lot of women in this country, and I'm not going to say every single one of them thinks that, but they go, I don't really want to be painted into a corner. Even if I wouldn't personally do it, I don't want to be painted into a corner, you know?
Well, I don't want a right taken away from me, whether or not it's applicable or not, right?
Whether you choose to exercise that right or not, you don't want it taken away. Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, that's just crazy stuff. But anyway, Tom Emmers out. So, back to square one yet again.
Yeah.
All right.
Roll call. Republicans, step right up. Who's the next one we're not going to vote in?
Good. Yeah, well, they've got nobody. Anyway, so that was the news for today. God, what a fuck. Kind of odd. We filmed on a day with so much breaking news. But yeah, we might have to start doing this daily at some point in the distant future. Not the near future, but yeah. Anyway, let's go on and let's move to some clips. So I wanted to start that was sent to us by a viewer, and it's a Dave Ramsey clip, and I haven't seen it.
I love it when viewers send us things. They send us such interesting things. Honestly, I'm into it. Keep them coming, guys. Keep them coming.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a Dave Ramsey one. I haven't seen it. Lacey hasn't seen it. No.
So what's its title? What's it called?
So it's titled "She Gets None of Your Money." So I don't know what it's about.
I don't know what it's about, but I don't want her to get my money.
Well, what are you taking it? Do you think it's a breakup or a divorce? That's what my first guess was.
Yeah, I mean, my first instinct is like it's a breakup or divorce thing. Maybe a situation where people are not married, so somebody's not like legally entitled to the other person's money. I mean, that's what my brain just goes to.
Well,
but maybe it's something else. I don't know.
Could be anything. We don't know. But we'll see. We'll see if we're right. We'll see. All right. So here we go. She gets none of your money.
Brought to you by the Every Dollar app. Start budgeting for free today. Kinsey is with us in Tacoma, Washington. Hi, Kinsey. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Better than I deserve. How can we help?
So my husband and I have been on your plan off and on, but we are, we've paid off all our debt at one point, and then I was stupid, got back into it. But we're like scorched earth, really, really on this plan to get out of debt. And one of the driving forces is we want to cash flow our kids' college. Well, and this is like the perfect day listening to all of these kids or adults having to pay for college again, all their stuff. Anyways, I have told my kids, I have a 21, 19, and a 17-year-old girls. And I've told them since they were in middle school, we will pay for college, but you have to live at home. And you have to go to a school that we approve of. You have to have good grades, but we will cash flow your school. We're not doing debt. We have been very transparent about the struggle we've had with debt, the sleep that we lost, everything like that.
I did the same thing. I did the same thing.
So, wow, we were way off. It's about college, funding college. We were way off.
We were way off.
Already, John Deloney, I think he's going a different direction here than Dave is. Because you see the look on his face.
Well, listen, I know what I would suggest they consider, but I don't believe what my suggestion would be is the same as what their suggestion would be.
No, let's watch theirs first.
Maybe this should be a Lacey Cage match.
That should be.
I'll give my recommendation.
Well, this sounds less of like an academic finance question and more of a very specific personal finance question, a goal-oriented finance question.
That's a little my arena. All right, let's see if I'm totally cold. Let's see if I can get better idea.
Well, John Deloney looks like he's disagreeing with her. Dave's already started agreeing with her. So I'm curious to where I bet you John Deloney just sucks it up and does whatever Dave says, but you got to remember too, John Deloney has 2 PhDs, but they're both in higher education administration. And one of them was in counseling, higher education counseling. So this is kind of the perfect question for him because he's dealt with this before. He's got I think almost a decade or so, or maybe 2 decades of experience doing this kind of counseling. So this would be a perfect question for him. I don't like the guy. I disagree with all of his finance stuff, but this might be the question to go to him with. I'm just giving him points on that. So let's see what they do here. But I'll bet you he sucks it up and just kisses Dave's ass.
Except the live at home part. Why do you add that? You have to live at home.
Because I don't pay for other people's rent. So where I live, there are so many colleges within 20 minutes of our home that there is no reason for you to not live at home.
Okay, so it's your money and those are your rules. What's your question?
So my daughter refuses to stay home and go to school. She wants to go to a state school, but she wants to go to WSU, which is over in Pullman, which is 6 hours away.
Cool.
And they require you to live on campus, and that you have to have the food program, which is about $2,500 to $4,000 a year.
So she's opting out. Hold on. This is very simple. She's opting out of your rule. She opted out.
Yes. And it's very difficult for me.
Absolutely. And I've dealt with my entire career has been spent sitting with parents, and you drew a hard line, a very hard line, and you said clear line, a very clear line. This is the way this is going to be. And she said, "Cool, I'm going that way." And so the other side of a very clear, very firm, hard line is other people can say, "Well, then I don't want anything to do with that boundary." But that doesn't obligate you to pay. No, doesn't mean she gets none of your money.
Oh God.
No,
I totally saw that coming.
Well, John just caved in, man. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we saw that coming. So, I mean, are we going to watch more of what they have to say?
We'll watch more,
you
but
want me to throw in what I have to say?
Go on and throw what you're going to say here, because we already know Dave's going to say, "Give her nothing." We know.
Okay, well, this is not me agreeing, but I guess the one point I semi-agree on is it is your money and you get to choose, if you're still giving the child the certain allotted amount of money or not.
Sure.
But the idea I would propose if this were one of my clients would be that, first of all, side note, kudos to you, kid, because you have fairly controlling parents. And it's really hard not to just sort of flow with what they want.
Right. Especially when they're holding the money over you like that.
Yeah, and that's like a big deal. I don't want you to have the debt. kid, if you happen to actually see this and know this is about you, but good on you for creating your own boundary around your decision-making process. Now, that being said, if this woman or couple were a client of mine, I would offer the suggestion that you, because you do want to help your child to, have the, obviously no debt is their goal, but at bare minimum, the least amount of debt possible, or keep them from working a ton, right?
Right.
Maybe this kid can pay the difference with a job, right?
Probably not, but
I don't know. I haven't seen any numbers. I'm just putting it out there. But why don't you contribute the amount that you would have contributed for tuition at one of those particular schools that were near you, without paying anything extra for rent or any for the food program or whatever these other things. Let the kid figure that part out.
Right. Well, so
because they're opting out of what your plan was, but you could still contribute to them the amount you were always willing to, because obviously there's an amount that they were always willing to contribute, which was slightly flexible, but just contribute that amount and let the kid figure the rest out.
Right. Well, I agree with you, except for here's the problem. I don't know the answer to yet. And hopefully we'll get this. So she's got 3 kids, 3 daughters. One's 21, one's 19, and one's 17. If it's the 21, what was that?
I'm going to guess this is probably the 17-year-old. We're probably dealing with like a high school senior.
If you're right, then that's a problem. If it's the 21-year-old saying, well, I want to finish my degree somewhere else, not as big of a deal. If it's the younger 2 kids, especially if it's the youngest one, now it's a problem because the older one got screwed on this, because the older one then would have taken the deal, right, and had to live at home that whole time, which means they'd have missed out on a lot of the college experience. They'd probably have a curfew. They have to live under mom and dad's rules. Mom and dad got to pick the school they went to, because that was one of her conditions, was that I get to pick the college and you have to live at home.
Well, no, it's not I get to pick the college. It's you only get to pick from one of the colleges within this region.
That's still I get to pick the college.
Sort of.
Yeah, that's still I'm picking.
Here's what I'm going to say. If it's one of the younger 2 kids and that older one took the deal and abided by the rules, that was their choice.
No, but here's my problem. And this is the issue when you're talking that I would be talking to the client about, which is, and John Deloney started this when he was saying you drew a really hard line. When you do that, you should have known that this was a likely thing to happen, especially with 3 kids. And if it's the older one, it's not as big of a deal, and your solution works great. Let's just say, okay, I'll give you what I gave the other 2. Right? Everybody gets the same or something close, right? Then it's not a big deal. But if it's the younger ones, then the older one's going to feel like they got screwed, and they probably already resent mom and dad for taking away a lot of their college, because you can't really date. It's not like you can go back to somebody's place and mom and dad aren't going to be asking you, well, where have you been all night? Right? And they could threaten to take away that money. So now it's no longer like I'm getting a gift. It's blackmail. We're going to cut you off if you don't, do it our way. Right? So like he said, it's a hard line. So when you did that, you basically set up a situation where, your kids are probably going to resent you for it, because now they know mom doesn't, I don't know what the husband's attitude is, but mom will never do anything for us because she cares about us or out of the kindness of her heart. No, it's always a transactional thing where she wants to assert more control over our lives. Right? It would have been better to offer them nothing and just say, I can't help you, than to say, well, I'll help you, but you got to follow all my rules. Right? And let me kind of basically dictate your life until you're out of college. That's the problem I have. If it's the youngest kid, that's going to be a big issue, because now the youngest kid, I can imagine what happened was the older 2 kids have been living through it, and they're pissed because they don't have the freedom that their friends have in college. They haven't really been able to have a lot of those opportunities to go out and socialize and date and like stuff like we used to do. Like, oh, it's Friday after finals, so we're going to go clubbing until 3:30 in the morning. Right? You can't really do that when you're living at home. Right? And now I'm sure that they resented it. And so the younger one's probably sitting there going, well, it sucked for older sister 1 and 2, right? So if I'm the younger one, I'm sitting there thinking, well, fuck, I don't want to do that.
Right? You're like, you know what?
I want
I'll
to bail.
take the student debt.
Right. So John Deloney's trying
I don't want to do that.
he's trying to nicely urge her into this line of, you've kind of screwed yourself by making it a hard line.
Absolutely. The way better line is like, okay, sister number 1 ended up getting about whatever
I can give you
thousands of dollars from us.
I can give
sister
you
number 2 got blankety blank $1,000. So we're going to give you the average of what those are toward the tuition bill. You're going to have to figure out your rent yourself and your meal plan yourself because we're not doing all that.
Student loans, like, but I'll help you out to X degree. I can do X, Y, Z. Right? It's kind of like what my parents did for me, which was we can give you X amount every month, and then beyond that, it's you got to work or take student loans or whatever you got to do. Because we can't, my parents, if they could have paid for my college, they probably would have, but they couldn't. But at the same time, they're like, we're going to help you out because we don't want you to spend all your time working. We would like you to actually spend more time studying and meeting people and enjoy, and actually experiencing college than just working and going to class, which is kind of how they did it when they were younger. So, but let's see how they go. But John Deloney was kind of onto it, and then Dave just cut him off. Well, don't give her any money. And John Deloney's like, oh, yeah, that's right. And I'm like, oh, John, dude, you were about to give her really good advice, and then Dave butted in, and you just caved. It's just sad. I mean, I'd be listening to the guy with 2 PhDs, not Dave Ramsey, the guy who pretends to be a financial expert.
I said I would help with some groceries.
No. She gets none of your money.
See?
That's the rule you set up. None of your money. No,
But
she
it's
opted
like,
out.
But it's like it kills me when you see your kid running
Yep.
into.
It's really heartbreaking to watch people you love do stupid butt things, but you don't get to vote anymore once they're adults. And the same is if your parents started spending their money and they were in their 80s, and it's heartbreaking because they keep sending money overseas to somebody who cares about what. I mean, or your best friend buys $100,000 worth of crypto because he's an idiot.
This is completely, that's apples and oranges. We're talking about a girl going to college, not somebody being stupid with money.
The only part of their point that is true is the point is these are other adults that you no longer or never did get to control. That's the one point that they're making that makes sense. However, they're comparing people doing obviously stupid things to this kid that's trying to go to college.
Right.
And we literally, here's what we don't know. So let's just take a second and adopt the sort of Ramsey I hate debt hat.
Right.
And I really am on the I hate debt page. I've made, no effort to disguise that. I'm definitely not on team debt. I'm way more debt adverse than you are. But even if we want to put on the no debt hat, no part of this did she say, my child's plan, which has been shown to me, includes them taking on XYZ amount of debt. That's literally there's no evidence that says that.
Right.
They're just assuming that the two choices are do mom's plan or have a bunch of debt.
Well, and it's contradictory because at first they're saying two different things. They're saying, one, they're an adult, you can't control them, right? But two, they're saying, yeah, but if she won't let you control her, you need to cut her off. So they're saying,
well,
but that's where
I'm going to defend them slightly. I don't feel like it's you're going to cut her off or you need to cut her off. I think they're saying you can cut her off.
No, Dave is saying
can. The
title
truth of the matter is, I get to do whatever I want with my money.
Sure.
And if I don't like what you're going to do with my money, and I want to attach 25,000 strings that you don't want to do, then I can be like, well, I don't want to put my money in there, and I get to,
Yeah, that's fine.
There's a difference to make that choice.
I understand that. My point is, we're also juggling. She doesn't want to ruin her relationship with her daughters, and she's kind of already fucked herself in that sense. She has, by putting all these strings on it. That's what I'm saying.
She literally set herself up to have that problem.
Right. I'm saying they're violating the first rule of financial planning, which is, what is the client's goals? If the goal is, well, I want to help my kids with college, but I don't want them doing all this other stuff, right? But I want to maintain a good relationship with them. Well, it's like, well, we need to rethink this, because you're not going to maintain a good relationship with them if you're trying to control them all the time. And if you're holding money over their head to do it, that just makes it worse. Right? Because now it's coercive.
Right.
And so she's kind of fucked herself into a corner here where she's going to piss off at least probably 2 of her 3 kids, if she hasn't already. And she's already shown them, because honestly, we know what mom's situation is. Mom will only help us out if she can get some sort of leverage or control over us. It's transactional. There's nothing done here out of love.
That makes me think of someone in my life, and this person that I'm thinking of has such scars from a mother that was like that.
Yeah.
And all of this was done under the guise of, I am doing all of these things to help you.
Right.
I'm doing all of these things for you,
right,
to make your life easier. But really what it was is setting the child up to need the parent.
Right.
It's like basing that relationship on kind of creating a need. I am now dependent on you.
Right.
And cannot do for myself. And I have to say, the person in my life that has this experience obviously loves their parent, but has huge amounts of resentment.
Oh, yeah.
Huge issues, with that human. And, it creates issues in other, interpersonal relationships in their life because it creates a nervousness around allowing people to do anything for you, because you're like, what's the deal? Are you trying to control me? Are you trying to buy me off? Are you trying,
Right.
This is all not good, not only good for that individual relationship, you are literally setting your children up to have issues in so many parts of their lives by not giving them any freaking choice.
Right. Plus you've set up a condition where there's a precedent for now, anytime you offer to help them, they're going to sit there and go, okay, what's the caveat? What's the catch?
What strings are attached?
Right. This is not, mom does not do shit for free. Mom does not
Right.
help me out of love. Yeah.
Right.
Let's watch some more of this. But yeah, I think that's the problem that they're missing here is, yeah, she can do whatever she wants with her money, but it's not going to fix her relationship with her kids.
I mean,
You can't stop him from doing
one of the
it.
hardest things is when you love somebody, they're doing hard things that are not going to be good for them.
And so also if she signs up for all of these loans and things because she has nothing saved, she's not doing
She has to pay them back. She's making a choice.
Do I have
No, you're not liable.
paper?
You're not liable. Don't sign anything. I refuse to participate in your insanity. I love you too much to buy your cocaine. You're an addict.
Whoa, that's not even comparable. Not even comparable. The other thing too,
The kids attempt to go to college cannot be compared to a cocaine addiction. Are you nuts? Oh my God.
But now this has become sort of a financial thing, and this kind of pisses me off because now he's saying, "Well, I'm not going to participate," was the term, in your stupidity, and it's like, well, first off, I don't think she's being stupid. I think she's being bold, saying, "No, you're not going to get to decide where I go to school and where I live. I'm an adult." I think I give her credit for that, and that was initially your point. I think you froze.
She's
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
So, can we pause for a moment and
Sure.
remind ourselves and our viewers and say that this kid was choosing, or young adult, was choosing a state college. Didn't the parents say she was choosing a state college? This is not someone who has decided to go to a more expensive private, small liberal arts sort of whatever. This is, I'm not saying a state college can't have a big sticker price sometimes, but this is probably a more modest sticker price than some Ivy League or like private little something or another.
At least it's a regulated sticker price. Yeah. The other problem I have is this is when you say to a parent like that, okay, don't participate, blah, blah, blah. Well, here's the problem. So now the girl needs to go apply for student loans because she didn't have any money. Right? Well, what does she need to apply for student loans? She needs her parents' taxes. And if mom's like, well, Dave Ramsey said I shouldn't participate or help you out, and I'm not responsible, then I'm not going to give you our taxes. And now she can't get student loans. So just FYI for you kids at home and for this woman's daughter, what's this woman's name? Kinsey. For her daughter, if you're Kinsey's daughter, if you're listening to me, if your parents won't give you your taxes, typically you either have to be 24 before you can go to college then, or you have to get an exception, which is hard to get. You go talk to the financial advisor at the school and see if they can apply for one. You probably won't get it. You can get emancipated from your parents, but you can't do that if you're over 18. You can only do that. So if you're 17 now, you've got to go to the family court and say, I want to get emancipated from my parents for this reason.
You can appeal to your school to.
You can't appeal
to have your parental income not counted toward your financial aid package, because I did that. No. Not because my family was being cruel to me. There were other circumstances that made that happen that were not negative.
But like
on
I
that.
said,
it is an extensive sort of process to have to go through.
Well, right. And your family just doesn't want to give it to you isn't really an excuse that's usually accepted by FAFSA. So she might not get it. There's a good chance. The other things you can do is you can get married, have a kid, or join the military. Those are the only ways to get out of it. You have to be 24, in the military, or married, or you have to have a child, a dependent of your own, or you have to get legally emancipated before you're 18. Or you have to go to financial aid and hope you can get an exception, which is rare. They don't hand them out very often. All right. There is another thing you can do. If your father is amenable, we don't know anything about the father yet. You can go to him and say, hey, I need your taxes to apply. It doesn't obligate you to anything. You're not going to have to pay anything. The financial aid advisor, John Deloney's probably done this, where he's called the other parent and said, hey, just give us the taxes and you can wash your hands of this. Right? You just give her your taxes each year so she can file for financial aid. On top of that fact, it's like, okay, because her parents' income is going to count in, she'll probably get less in financial aid. She'll probably have to work too to get through school. Right? But it's going to be one of those things where it's also going to be the situation, like I said, if it's one of the younger two kids, the older two kids are probably, unless they hate their sibling, are probably going to be of the attitude of, well, that's fucked up that mom and dad wouldn't help them.
I think it stands a chance of creating rifts in the whole family.
Yeah. But I think he's just fucked this even worse by saying, don't help her at all. Cut her off completely. And it's like, well, bro, now what you've done is you've basically divided the whole family. And it was already fairly divided to begin with, which was what John Deloney was getting at. But we'll watch this a little bit more. And it's not fair to compare her to a coke addict. She's a girl going to college, however old she is right now. But We don't know which daughter they're talking about.
She upped it up. She upped it up. See, she thinks, this is the reason we're being so strong on this. I know what she thinks. She thinks you're going to give her money anyway.
What? And I can't. I have two other girls that.
Doesn't she? Does she think that?
Well, wait, stop. Because she was saying, well, I can't give her money because I have two other girls. And it's like, well, no, but
other girls that what?
But you have
because you were trying to say it, but can we rewind it just a tiny bit?
Yeah, let's go back a second. And then
Duncan, how much longer do you think we're going to be on it? Because I'm at 23%. I don't know if I need to go grab a cord.
5-10 minutes. You should be fine.
We're being so strong on this. I know what she thinks. She thinks you're going to give her money anyway.
And I can't. I have two other girls that.
Doesn't she? Does she think that?
Yeah, he cut her off. So, but the problem I have with that statement is I can't give her money because I have two other girls. Is you're giving the other girls money, right? So that's bullshit. But his whole thing is nope, cut her off completely. Yeah,
right.
This is.
Yeah, let's pause on that premise here. So I can't because I have two other girls that
I'm already giving money to, or I'm going to be giving money to.
But if there's already a situation in which you're giving money to all three girls, then why does this make that not possible? You just plan, as I said in my suggestion, you plan to give the third girl the same amount of money, which means she's going to have some sort of obstacles that she's going to need to figure out and make some choices about or whatever. But you could still give her the same amount of money you were planning before because based on what this woman just said, apparently you didn't have money to give her anyway if you having these two other girls.
Well, right.
Makes you not able to give money to the third.
Well, let's say, because there's two that are already in college. So you're right. This has got to be the youngest one, the 17-year-old. So that's a good point.
Makes sense.
So there's
the two older sisters and was like, I'm not doing that.
So there's actually a way out of this, which you were right in the first place, which is, okay, I'm giving older sister A and B, right? We'll do A, B, C from oldest to youngest. So A, oldest sister, B, middle sister, C, youngest. A and B are getting X amount of money for books, tuition, etc. from me that I'm paying. I will give you that same amount. But now, since you're going to be living on campus, you got to cover your rent, your food, and right? But they live here, so they don't have to cover their rent and the food. So if they bitch and say, well, that's not fair, then you can say, well, wait a second, though. She has to cover her own rent and food. Right? I gave you guys all the opportunity to maybe.
We covered the same amount of tuition for her that we did for you guys.
Right. And then that way, if the oldest one goes, well, shit, I should have done that, then all you can say
but you didn't.
Well, what the mother can say is, well, look, that was a mistake of me to phrase it that way. I should have explained that I was willing to do that or whatever. You can lie. I don't care at that point. But it's like, but at least now you're being at least a little bit equal, a little bit more equal.
But also, okay, I agree with you, but I'm going to add on, excuse or not, it still is on the child to decide
what they want,
whether they're going to just abide by that boundary or not. The parent gets to have the boundary, but the child at the point of turning 18 is the one making the choice to either roll with the parental unit's decision or go rogue.
Okay.
And you know what? It's not child number 3's fault that 1 and 2 didn't go rogue. Right. They can't be blamed for that.
No, but mom could still be blamed for that. But let's watch a little bit more of this. But I don't. This whole thing about the girl thinks she's going to get money. I don't know what the girl thinks. She's 17. But he's just trying to make it sound like the daughter is really the problem here, not you. Because that's what the woman called for. Tell me that I'm being the good guy. And that's what he's trying to tell her.
Does think that, but I have to hold true because my oldest moved out, so we stopped school. Our middle one is staying home.
It's the younger one.
School.
Yep.
So we have to stay true to what we said.
It's unfair to the other two for you to
Wait,
not
what
have
happened to the
integrity.
second one?
Let's go back.
The real root cause of
hang on.
snoring is not what you think. Did you know that snoring has nothing to do with nasal prop?
Okay.
Let's go back a second.
True, because my oldest moved out, so we stopped school.
Yep.
Our middle one is staying home. We're paying for school.
Yep.
So we have to stay true to what we said.
It's unfair to the other two.
Okay, so the older one moved out and they cut her off.
And then the second one did what?
The second one's still staying at home, was 19. But the 21-year-old moved out and they cut her off. So now she's really fucked. I don't know what to say. I mean, you know, we're running out of time here, but it's like, yeah, other than you got to find some way to negotiate this. And it might have to be that mom and dad sit down with all three of them and say, look, you know, we want to be fair here and equitable. Let's talk about this. You know, we're willing to be flexible. We may have made a mistake. This might not have been the right solution.
Mm-hmm.
And you might have to kind of throw yourself on the mercy of the court as the parent, or you can just cut her off and let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah. So, you know, okay. Are we going to watch any more of this? Like, I feel
I'm
like
good. I think we covered everything.
So, I gotta say, for this cage match that we didn't plan, the Lacey cage match here,
yeah.
I think we got to give the win to Elacius on
Absolutely.
this one because
you were right.
I out-strategized them for sure. And you know what? My plan is going to honestly give all of those kids their best shot, the most autonomy, and have them have the best family dynamic, all of which are super important. I'm giving me the win
right
here.
And it's the fairness of it's more fair, but the trick is how do you do that? And then the other option, the David option and the John option here is you just cut her off, and then you just got to deal with however that looks, because it looks bad. It looks like you're trying to control her, and it looks it looks like you fucked over the one kid.
There is no universe in which their plan is better than mine.
No.
Oh no.
No, it's just bad all around. Well, anyway, that was our show for today. Good work, Lacey. Thanks everybody for watching. Where can everybody catch you?
So I want to say, first of all, thank you to that viewer, because I loved that one. That one was super interesting. It was not what I thought it was going to be.
No,
based
not
on
at
the title
all.
at all.
We didn't
Not
have
at
a clue.
all. So if you want to see more of my stuff, you can go right on over to mysensewithsense.com, where I took on this cage match because I deal a lot more with the, very personal side of personal finance and some of the dynamics that come out of that. So if you want to read materials on that, check out my stuff. You can find articles I've written, courses that I run, workshops that I do. And if you have any questions about it, feel free to email us. Or if you find something else cool like this, I love this one. Send us something else that you think is interesting that you'd like to see us have a conversation about. Or invite yourself on here. Or you could send us a clip of something that's like news or non-Dave Ramsey. We're pretty open.
Yeah.
Where can they send us that stuff, Duncan?
Yeah, just email us at gossipfinancead@outlook.com. Thanks again, everybody, for watching. Please like and subscribe and all that jazz. And we'll catch you next time. Thanks, Lace.